Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our Catch webinar. We'll be getting started in just a few minutes. Just wanted to welcome you, let you know that you're in the right place. We'll be starting right at the top of the hour, so sit tight. If you want to get a drink of water, bio break, or anything like that, now is a great time. We'll be with you very shortly. Excited to have you. Thanks. All right, seeing lots of people rolling in here. Just wanted to let you know that we are going to be getting started in just a couple of minutes here. You're in the right place. There's nothing to hear or see other than our nice title slide here. Just sit tight and we will be with you at the top of the hour. Okay, it's the top of the hour and I like to get things started on time. So I want to welcome everyone here today to our great, exciting webinar on the newest Catch program, Catch Healthy Smiles, an oral health program for kids in grades K through 2. I'm very excited for our conversation here today, and we have some excellent guests who I'll get to in just a minute. But as just the general housekeeping orders to touch off on at first, I wanted to let everyone know here that the webinar is being recorded. An archive link will be sent to everyone who registered after this. Sorry, I got a message that my audio may be experiencing problems, so forgive me. That it's being recorded, and the archive link will be sent to everyone who registered for this, and it will be available as an archive on the Catch website, which is catch.org, as well as the Michael and Susan Dell Center for Healthy Living website, msdcenter.org. First, let me let you know that the webinar is being hosted today by the Michael and Susan Dell Center for Healthy Living at the University of Texas Health Science Center at Houston, or the UTHealth School of Public Health, my alma mater. The Center for Healthy Living was founded in 2006 with a vision of healthy children in a healthy world and a mission to advance health and healthy living for children and families through cutting-edge research, innovative community-based programs, and dissemination of evidence-based practices. Again, you can see all their great work and learn about what they do in public health at msdcenter.org. All right, my name is Brooks Ballard, and I am with Catch Global Foundation. And Catch Global Foundation was founded in 2014 with a mission to improve children's health worldwide by developing, disseminating, and sustaining the Catch platform in collaboration with researchers from UTHealth. The foundation links underserved schools and communities to the resources necessary to create and sustain healthy change for future generations. You can learn more about our work and our programs at catch.org. Now, with that, I would like to welcome our panelists and let you know a little bit about them. So I'll ask them to turn on their cameras here too, and I will start with a familiar face. Those of you who registered may have been expecting to see Dr. Srila Sharma, who is unfortunately ill and not able to join us today. So stepping in for her is one of our favorite pinch hitters. He's always going to hit it out of the park. Is Dr. Steve Kelder, and you'll hear why he's a perfect stand-in here for Dr. Sharma here today. Dr. Kelder is an original co-creator of Catch, Associate Regional Dean and Distinguished Professor of Epidemiology, Human Genetics, and Environmental Science at UTHealth School of Public Health, Austin Regional Campus, and coordinator of external affairs at the Michael and Susan Dell Center for Healthy Living. He's a world-renowned child health expert with more than 25 years of experience in design and evaluation of child and adolescent research, particularly interventions directed towards youth, schools, and parents, addressing physical activity, healthy eating, e-cigarette prevention, and oral health. He is the co-lead investigator for the Catch Healthy Smiles program, along with Dr. Sharma. So welcome, Dr. Kelder, and thanks for joining last minute.
Thanks, Brooks, and thanks for such a nice introduction. Appreciate it.
Glad to have you. Next, we have Dr. Dan Crowley. Dr. Crowley is Vice President and Chief Dental Officer for Delta Dental of California and its affiliated companies, covering 15 states and the District of Columbia. He's a graduate of the University of Kentucky College of Dentistry and practiced in the Chicago area. After leaving private practice, he joined the dental benefit community and has been with the Delta Dental of California since 2004. During that time, he's been involved in many industry organizations, including committees at the American Dental Association, National Association of Dental Plans, California Association of Dental Plans, and Delta Dental Plans Association. In his current role as Chief Dental Officer, Dr. Crowley is responsible for the clinical vision and quality care delivery for the Delta Dental of California experience. Welcome, Dr. Crowley.
Thanks, Brooks. I appreciate the welcome. Just one thing, you mentioned Delta Dental of California. For the folks on the phone, on the webinar here, you may recognize our company name in Texas is Delta Dental Insurance Company. So that's a more familiar name to the Texas group here. So I just wanted to call that out. We're all part of the same organization. California just is my employer, so to speak.
We're all just going global these days. It's all good, and we're glad to have you, and we're glad that you're with us here virtually. I know you're in the Midwest. I'm from the Midwest, as is Steve. So we're representing that pretty strong here today, even though we're spread out, covering a lot of the country. Yep. So okay, well, let's roll into it here. If you would advance one slide, please, Kate. And I forgot, sorry, one housekeeping mention, the Kate who I'm talking to is behind the scenes here. As I mentioned, the Michael and Susan Dell Center for Healthy Living, they're hosting today. If you have any technical difficulties today or have any questions, this is a webinar, we want to hear from you. So please type your questions into the questions box on your control panel on the side of your screen there, including anything technical. If you're having difficulties or audio is cutting out, something like that, you can message and Kate will respond back to you and try to help you troubleshoot that. But again, we're going to try to hold off for audience questions until the Q&A at the end. But again, you can type those into the chat box at any time. So when the moment inspires you or the mood hits you, go ahead and type it in, and we'll get to those at the end. So all right, with that, finally, let's jump into it here. So first, I do want to let the people know a little bit more about the two of you. So I do want to start with kind of something a little bit just about how you got interested in oral health and or dentistry. I'll start with you, Dr. Crowley.
Sure. Growing up, I always had like this passion for people, and not just like I love people kind of passion, but I liked interacting with people. And so when I was, way back in the day, when I was trying to figure out what kind of career, would be my lifelong work, the health space really took great interest. And so after years of college, like many, being pre-med, started looking more carefully and happened to walk into my dentist office to get my teeth cleaned. And started talking to him about health careers and things like that. And he just asked me the question, did you ever think about dental school? And the answer, truthfully, was no. So dentists aren't born, they're made. I guess that's the moral of the story. So I spent some time shadowing him in his practice, and I realized that oral health and the practice of dentistry was a really good combination of the things that really fed me personally as well as professionally. I left practice because of a shoulder condition, and was very fortunate to land at Delta Dental because it's allowed me to tap into that passion, and where I was really interacting with people one-on-one to improve their lives, I have a much broader impact now across populations and education, which is something that just feeds my soul.
That's great. And Dr. Kelder, same question for you about oral health. We know you're not a dentist, but you've had lots of public health interests. What got you, sniffing around in oral health?
Sure. Well, the long story is I have a degree in marketing economics, and for a while I worked in marketing with Johnson & Johnson. I became interested in working with health professionals through hospitals. Then I went off to get my degree in public health, and I sort of, I guess like Dan, fell in love with the topic of public health and with the idea of helping children, families, and communities. And as you can tell by the names of these organizations, that's what I've been pursuing ever since. And so I've been working with diet and physical activity for quite some time. That's the roots of the Catch Project that we're here to talk about today. In the state of Texas, I would always make sure to know the Commissioner of Health and the Commissioner of Agriculture and the Commissioner of Education, just because they intersect with the work that I do, for sure. They're gatekeepers. And one year in the state legislature, the Texas elected officials added oral health to the list of health issues that schools should have a content in, and I looked around, I couldn't find any. And so we put some together sort of just to meet the minimal needs, but I've always thought that we need to do a better job with it. And I looked for programs that had a little evidence base behind them, programs that I thought were comprehensive and that were theory and best practice based. I didn't find those, so I thought, well, we better make our own. And so with the help of some of my friends, including Brooks, and curriculum writers and some other faculty, we put together this program we're calling Catch Healthy Smiles. We were fortunate enough to get some funding from the NIH and the Dental Craniofacial Group Institute. And so here we are today talking about it. And then, almost out of the blue, Delta Dental comes along and says, you know what, we've been looking for a program too. And would you like us to support this program? And we said, well, I think kids need it. And even though we don't have the exact answer for efficacy from the RCT, we do know that kids need it badly. There's plenty of untreated teeth, and untreated teeth can lead to a bunch of different health problems, especially for kids. So that's how I got into this, Brooks.
Well, that's pretty good reasons. And yeah, you did mention, I will jump in shortly here to the need and the urgency of oral health, but I can't help but kind of acknowledge that Halloween was just a couple of days ago, and whenever I think of dentistry and dentists, I always think of, I wonder what they're giving out at Halloween. And so to put you a little on the spot, Dr. Crowley, what do you think is the public health enemy number one when it comes to candy? And again, what would you recommend to parents? As I'm sure they still have piles of candy around their house. There's ways that kids can still enjoy it, but what are the ways to, what would a dentist advise in that situation?
Sure. So nobody wants to be the fun police and say candy is off limits. So I'm not going to say that. But I will say that there are candies that are worse than other candies. And if you think about it, anything that's sticky is really going to be public enemy number one, because if you think about the tops of your teeth, the chewing surfaces of your teeth, they have all these grooves and pits in them, and anything sticky, as you can imagine, put all that chewing force is going to just pack it down in there. And while sugar is definitely the fuel that drives a lot of decay, and pause, we'll get to some of the other aspects to have minimized public enemy number one toward the end of the talk. It is a big deal to try to minimize the amount of sticky sugar candies that you eat. As an alternative, just anything that's not sticky, or make sure you keep your teeth cleaned after you eat it. I will say that my favorite go-to candy bar is Payday, which is really, really weird. And my wife says that it's the oddest thing in the world because it doesn't have chocolate on it. And I grew up consuming, yeah, my inner chubby child looked for chocolate everywhere. And so to having grown up and looking for Paydays, it seems like a really, really big switch.
Well, Dr. Kelder, what's your favorite go-to Halloween candy?
Well, Dan, interestingly enough, Payday is one of my favorites too. I guess we grew up in a similar area of the country. I remember when I was an undergrad, there was a little snack truck that was outside, and most nights I'd go out and get a Payday with my roommate. And a black cherry soda. We haven't talked about soda yet, but that's another one of the public enemies, although I've never handed out cans of soda at Halloween. But plenty of people drink those sodas or get the big gulp, which is now, I think, goes up to 64 ounces at various places. And so that's a problem too, because it's not that it's sticking in the teeth, it's just it's everywhere on the teeth. Exactly. It covers all the surfaces. And if you're drinking it regularly, sugar-sweetened beverages, that is, then that's a little problem, to say the least. In our family, we had a variety of candies. And interestingly, my wife has a peanut allergy, so she buys a bunch of candy that have peanuts in it to limit her own consumption, not worrying about me and my uncontrollable needs. Peanuts. And so I like Mr. Goodbars, but usually what we do, and maybe I shouldn't say this, we pack up the day after the candy and then hand it out to homeless people in Austin. And so they're getting a little bite of something. We're getting rid of the candy so I don't have to eat it all. But on top of all that, brushing your teeth is a good idea too. Making sure your kids brush their teeth, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, let's get into this, because I think we're going to talk on some of those mitigating factors. And again, part of this is part of the problem is the lack of knowledge. We always talk about it's knowledge and skills to really kind of, the two pieces of most health promotion programs, environment also included, just for everyone with the social cognitive theory background. But let's jump into a little bit of the knowledge piece here and talk about, the problem of kids' oral health. And many people don't know that, this is the #1 childhood disease. And there are some people who might think the term disease is not quite right here. They don't think of dental caries or oral health problems as being a disease. But Dr. Crowley, I'll start this off with you. So could you tell me a little bit, why is it called, a disease in this context? And, what are some of the implications of poor oral health on kids' lives?
Sure. You're right. When you talk about cavities, or dentists call them caries, when you talk about cavities as a disease, it almost sounds weird. And I think part of the problem, or the reason for that, is we've heard about it for years. How many of you watch television commercials and see toothpaste ads and talk about, getting rid of cavities or preventing cavities? And so it feels almost like it's inevitable. But cavities are caused by a bacteria. And the one thing we know about bacteria is they can be transmitted from person to person. So, many studies have demonstrated this communicableness, if that's a word, of the bacteria that causes decay. And so when you put all that together, this really is a communicable disease. And more importantly, foundationally, knowledge that this is a preventable communicable disease. We talk about the prevalence of it. According to, I looked at multiple sources to kind of try to get some data, and just I wouldn't say the most staggering data is nationally about 15% of children ages 3 to 5 have untreated cavities. And for ages 6 to 9, it's a little bit higher at 16%. That was sort of a took my breath away moment, to be completely honest. And I'll say it again, 15% of kids 3 to 5 have untreated decay, meaning they have an active disease process occurring in their mouth. And taking that a little bit further, studies show that approximately 90% of all people have decay in at least one tooth that has been treated over their lifetime. So, you think about a communicable, preventable disease like cavities and how pervasive it is. It's not inevitable, but it feels inevitable. But if we start naming it appropriately as a disease, it will help all of us have the language around treating this disease the way it needs to be treated.
That's a really great point. Yeah. And can you tell us a little bit more though, also on, what are the implications? What's it like for a kid to have an untreated carie in his mouth? 15%. I mean, that's a 3-year-old. I've got a 3-year-old, almost 3-year-old, and I can't imagine, there's got to be pain, discomfort, and trying to hear that from a 3-year-old. They don't always tell you.
Yeah, and sometimes that's part of a problem with cavities too. Once they start, they can be undetected by the kid. You know, if you're looking at an infection on your arm, you see it. You may feel it because of inflammation. Teeth don't react to this disease until it advances pretty significantly. So once a tooth actually exhibits, you know, once a kid has pain, the infection is advanced pretty far. So think about that bacteria kind of like using the sugar that's in the mouth to create some acid that actually starts to break down the tooth structure. But because it's not just there, it's throughout the mouth, it can actually be beginning decay on other teeth. So not waiting until you feel something is really important. And that's the prevention aspect of treating your teeth at home and going to a dentist for preventive services.
Yeah, and Dr. Kelder, can you tell us a little bit about the implications of poor oral health around different populations? Does this affect all populations of kids the same way?
Well, I think all kids that get tooth decay, it might be similar in terms of its progression and such. But so you really do want to prevent. But you know, the percentage of kids who have either untreated or treated caries does vary based on, you know, children with special health needs tend to have more cavities. Those at poverty or below tend to have more cavities. And not surprisingly, there's an issue with just going to the dentist, and some people either can't afford to go to it or they're not insured. And so it separates two groups pretty widely, I think, between those that have enough resources to take advantage of the services and or people that have mental health conditions as kids. So those are two groups to pay attention to. You know, I was doing a little bit of research this morning too, just to get some current stats. And one of the things that I found the ones that you cited, Dan, but I also found one that says 57% of Hispanic and 48% of Black children, this is children, have treated or untreated caries. And so it's, I found 19% of those at poverty or below have untreated dental problems. But it jumps up if you count the treated ones. So that means they've had a cavity before. And so it's a fairly common thing. And it's, like you said, it is universal though. I think lots of people are at risk for it.
Yeah, and when I think about just going back to the days that I was in practice, the kids, the pain that actually can cause, it impacts their entire life. You know, learning, playing, eating, social interactions, you name it. It's really disruptive. And some kids have the pain and they really don't even want to tell their parents because maybe they don't want to disrupt their parents' life, or maybe they feel the cost implications. So stopping the decay before it becomes presents this level of pain is really, really important. Prevention is the best solution across the board. And I'll say that going to the dentist for preventive services is important. And a lot of times that's where our mind goes, is I need to get my teeth clean so my teeth can stay good. But the vast majority and driver of your oral health is what you do at home. Brushing, flossing, making sure that you're not eating candy. And if you do, brushing your teeth or using some other method like drinking water after it to cleanse your mouth is really important to make sure that you maintain that level of cleanness within your mouth to prevent the decay and the bacteria from starting. And I'd have to give up my dentist card if I didn't actually add in here, brush and floss your teeth tonight. Everybody on the call, brush and floss your teeth tonight. And if you haven't gone to your dentist lately, go. Call and get an appointment. Prevention is really, really key. And I'll just throw one more comment in here about COVID. Some people we know are not going to their dentist because they're afraid they may get COVID or they may get exposed to it. If you have that fear, please call your dentist and just talk with them about their protocols. Dentists have enhanced their sterilization and their sanitation protocols, and there's a very, very low incidence of COVID in dental offices. So your dentist wants you to come in, your dentist wants you to get those services done, and they will give you assurances. Just call them and talk through it so that you feel comfortable going in.
Yeah, that's a really good point. In fact, my dentist, I was surprised at how quickly her whole practice geared up for this. And we're handling COVID, and I've been studying COVID too, in addition to kids, as it relates to kids. And not every professional organization can ramp up that quickly. I was very impressed with the dental community. But Brooks, other things that happen to kids, when they have pain in their mouth, when they have a carie, they could have bleeding gums. That does lead to social interference. But when the pain starts reaching a certain level, it can interfere with your ability to learn in the classroom. It can interfere with your sleep patterns. It can interfere with your desire to be physically active, even if you're having a throbbing pain. And so it influences not just, other diseases in the mouth, but it happens right now for kids in their ability to pay attention and learn at school. So I think that's another important point. Also related to some chronic diseases, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, et cetera, longer term, kids don't typically pay attention to cardiovascular disease when they're in their teens or so. But it's there too, and absolutely preventable.
Yeah, you mentioned the school performance. We got a couple of stats that I'm familiar with. Is that kids with poor oral health are 3 times more likely to miss school and 2 times more likely to perform poorly. And if that's not a compelling case for why schools should care about this too. I mean, obviously as a parent, you should care, but schools, absent kids, that actually leads to revenue loss for schools too. And with this being such a prevalent problem, it's something that, I'm glad in Texas schools are mandated to do something about oral health, but this is a reason that all schools should be, giving time to this as well, I think.
And that was another compelling reason, and for me to get closer into the school business this way, is that it is a high cause of absenteeism. It might be the #1 cause in Texas. I'm sure it varies by states, but it's right up there as a reason for this. That's another reason we created this program.
Yeah, great. Well, I think we've touched on a lot of the underlying causes of poor oral health in kids. So I do want to get to some of these myths though that we've heard. So one is right here in the center of the screen that I've heard multiple times, is that the baby teeth don't matter. They're going to fall out anyway. So why should, this is something that is obviously communicated in the parent materials for Catch Healthy Smiles. We'll talk about that a little bit here. But, Dr. Crowley, starting with you, why do baby teeth matter?
Yeah, that baby teeth don't matter, they fall out. The weird thing is there's a fact and a myth in there. The fact is baby teeth do come out. So that leads to the myth at the beginning, let them fall out. They don't really matter, but they do matter. Obviously, we talked about some of the impacts of pain on performance and things like that, but just think about the nutritional impacts, chewing. If teeth are breaking down or they hurt when they chew, children tend to either avoid eating or they avoid eating things that are good for them because processed foods are much easier to chew. And so that just is this cavalcade or domino effect, I would say, of nutritional impacts on top of tooth impacts. In addition to that, baby teeth hold the space within the jaw. Either the upper or the lower jaw. If you can kind of think about, let's say there's a tooth on either side of a baby tooth and you decide that let's just pull that tooth because it doesn't matter. Typically what happens is the baby teeth start to drift in. What that will inevitably do is it will block that permanent tooth from erupting completely. And it actually can have long-term impacts, not only on just that tooth, but other teeth around it. So, maintaining, the healthy structure of the jaw and the continuity of the teeth within the arch is really, really important. There are times, of course, that a baby tooth should come out. There may be decay too advanced, or maybe an infection that's actually spreading into the gum tissue around that tooth, and the tooth does need to come out. And so if that's the case, don't ignore it and let it just happen. Go to your dentist, because again, that spacing that's necessary for normal development, your dentist has procedures that can actually aid in that and help with proper tooth eruption. It goes without saying that, ignoring these kinds of things and just letting things happen takes a lot of time and money, and it can be a longer term thing, not just that episode, but it actually can lead to longer term commitments and financial commitments that all can be stopped or prevented. So they matter, socially, functionally, as well, not just externally, but also within the mouth function as well.
Yeah, that's great. And another one I've heard is speech development too. That's incredibly important at a young age. You really can't. It's cute when the way little kids talk, but a lot of that's just because you don't realize how much is going on inside the mouth to just process normal consonant sounds and things teeth are absolutely necessary for. And I can imagine just having the extra handicap of prematurely not having front teeth, for example, and trying to learn to say, TH sounds or things like that becomes. Yeah,
the tongue is a muscle, and it functions within the boundaries that it's given to function in. If you don't have that obstruction of the teeth in the front, making the natural sounds of like, they're going to develop, but they may develop in ways that aren't actually considered natural speech within our society. So that's a really great call out.
Yeah. Well, I want to make sure to kind of move us along so we have plenty of time to talk about the program, and my timing was around 1:30 to do that. But if there's one more myth that either of you want to bring up that you would like to debunk, since we've got a couple hundred people here listening, is there one that comes to mind for either of you?
I'll throw one out there. And again, this kind of goes back to the beginning when I said I don't want to be the sugar police. Sugar is not bad. Candy is not bad. Decay starts, it's like an equation of bacteria, a fuel, which is usually sugar, carbohydrates, and time. So if you can stop one of those variables within the equation of decay, you can actually minimize or mitigate the risk of decay. So, it's not realistic for us to say stop eating candy, so let's be real and let's be moderate in how we actually help children understand the value of good nutrition and the impacts of too much sugar. But when they have sugar, brush your teeth after you eat. If you can't brush your teeth after you eat, swish with some water or chew some sugarless gum. What that will do is it will naturally cleanse the mouth and keep the mouth, keep that bacteria from settling there or eating that sugar that's in the mouth until you can get to your bathroom or to wherever you brush your teeth. And just one call out here. Milk has a lot of sugar in it. It's great for us. However, it does have a lot of sugar, and we need to be aware of that. So if you're, putting your babies down for a nap or to sleep with a bottle that has milk in it, please don't do that. That can actually cause a lot of significant decay in your child's mouth.
Yeah, those are great points. I didn't know about the sugarless gum, but thank you for that tip. You learn something new every day, I hope. But the only thing I want to mention here is that, I have heard just being out in the field and with teachers in schools is that some parents don't think they need to bring their children to the dentist until the baby teeth have fallen out. In fact, I think that's a fairly common misconception in communities here in Texas. And so we sort of covered that, the role of baby teeth, but your kids need to start going to the dentist. I'm sure Dan can tell us exactly the protocol for that. But that is a myth that they don't need to go that regularly.
Yep, absolutely. There's a lot of programs out there. Go to your dentist by the age of 1. You can growth and development is another aspect of the child that their dentist's going to look at. So if they can again catch growth and development early, sometimes there's guidance, through orthodontic procedures or other procedures to help build a stable foundation for normal tooth development.
That's right.
Yeah, and I will plug, as someone who not too long ago took a young child for their first dental appointment. The other thing about that for me was learning to brush my child's teeth. You know, we take for granted how we brush our own teeth, and as soon as you turn that thing around, it's completely, muscle memory's gone. So they really kind of show you, here's what you need to be doing with your kids. Here's how to brush. This is a tricky spot. Make sure that you do this here, etc. And again, showing how to floss a kid's teeth, all of that. There was a real education in that experience for me as well. And I think that it's important for the kids' health, but it's also an education moment for parents to understand how they're going to be a partner in their kids' oral health until they can develop those skills, which is not for quite a long time. And we'll touch on that. I think it's around 7 or 8 years old before they can really, be trusted to competently brush their teeth. So let's jump. And then
even check it at that, because as they grow beyond even those years, teenage years, you gotta just ask the question, are you?
The teenage years are a whole special population in regard to, they listen to their parents for up until a certain age at about puberty, and then they might toss the toothbrush. So I do think that's an important part, middle school and high school. We tend not to emphasize the younger kids because we want to get them on the right path, but a lot of kids break that path at or about that age.
Yeah, great point. Well, so let's talk a little bit now. I want to transition to the program. So if we can go to the next slide. And that program is called Catch Healthy Smiles. So Dr. Kelder, as one of the lead investigators who helped develop this program, please tell us a little bit about the program. Who's it for? What are the aims of the program, and just kind of give us a general grounding on what this is.
Sure. Well, I will mention that these characters here are a common method to introduce new topics to kids. It could be cartoon characters, it could be animals. Animals particularly, there's actually research on this. So kids will relate to animals in a different way than if I had people holding the toothbrush and the cup of water and the floss. And so that's one principle I thought is kind of fun. So I do that in a lot of my programs, have characters. And so this program fills, I think, a niche in what's offered in many schools or many parts of this country, because I couldn't find very many. And the way I start all the programs is to, as we've done already, how much of a problem is there? What's the result of the problem? That's the tooth caries and such. And then what can we do about it? And so this is the part of the public health problem of what can we do about it? And so we started doing some research and reading about the number of kids both that had caries or that did or did not brush their teeth. Decided to focus in on kindergarten, first and second grade, in part because those are the earliest ages that the Texas law covered, even though it covers older kids too. And we decided to focus in on kids that are from lower income areas, mostly in Houston. And that's because we know that there's a disparity between those that have insurance or those that have additional funds or so on. And so we tried to put this program and test it in these areas. And so the program's nicely based on well-accepted health promotion theories. It's based on well-accepted best practices for how you do and manage activities and things and manage the curriculum at school. So you have two very strong foundations to begin. But then after that, it's a matter of thinking through, well, what do kids need to know? And what's the actual behavioral skill that we're trying to teach them? And so, learning how to brush their teeth is important, of course, as you were saying, and then to continue doing it too. We found that when we looked at kindergartners in a pilot test, there's a fair number of kids that either have not ever brushed their teeth or really didn't know how to do it very well. So one of the elements of the program that I think is important is that we're asking the schools to have the kids brush their teeth at school. At first I wanted it every single day, but that turned out to be a little more complicated for the schools, because if you think about an elementary school with 600 kids all trying to go to the bathroom and brush their teeth at the same time, that just doesn't work. And so we're asking, and the schools seem to be okay with this, to brush once a week. And the point of doing this is to have kids understand that's important because the teacher is telling them that, And then they might like a little break to do something different once a week. And then they can learn, and it then becomes routine. If you're not getting it as frequently at home, or if you're not being taught the proper way, then this is one way to do it. And so that's a centerpiece of this program is to do that. And we worked real hard with teachers about the best ways to line them up and get them in the bathroom, or if there's sinks in the bathroom. Then of course COVID hit, and then we had to learn and be a lot more careful about contamination of toothbrushes across and handling of them. And so we built protocols and practice tools and other things so that schools are able to keep the toothbrushes from not getting infected while they're there, but also get the job done and have the kids brush their teeth. And so after that, it turns into the skills, the exact skills about how to do it. And then there's the why you should do it part, the motivation. And so there's a number of different strategies to do that. And one of them is just to teach kids what are teeth composed of? What is a cavity? What are these things? And so we go through that and some fun activities. I should say all this stuff in health education typically tries to be really fun, active learning rather than a teacher just talking to you. And so we've broken most of the curriculum into small group activities that could be done at a table with 5 kids or fewer or more or such. The kids are going to learn through a classroom curriculum that we ask them to do. I believe there's 14 40-minute-ish, 30 to 40-minute sessions. Then we want them to go through it one by one. So some knowledge about the tooth and so on, others about the problems with teeth that could happen and the causes of cavities, like sticky candies, definitely in there, sugar sweetened soda, milk is in there, etc. And then talk to them about the importance of flossing and so on. In addition to the classroom curriculum, we have supplemental. Yeah, my watch is talking to me. It's always weird when that happens. Anyway, and so we have supplemental short activities, about 20 or 30 of those that are in the 5-minute category. So if any teacher is interested and they have a little downtime and they want to fill it with a tooth-oriented thing, because not all teachers can afford to give all the time to the 20 to 30-minute program, but they might have the 5 minutes, particularly if they know that their kids are at risk or that they have an idea that their kids aren't brushing their teeth well. In the same way of thinking, and I do this in all my programs, we have supplemental reinforcing lessons in PE class. And so what's taught in the classroom by the teacher gets reinforced in PE. And all that means is we've created maybe, I think 15, 20-ish different activities. So kids line up in 3 lines and run to one end of the gym and grab a piece of paper out of a bucket, and they'll have a question on it. And then you run back and tell the other group the answer. So, things like that are sort of fun. They're physically active just to get your heart rate going. And there's a lot of research that says that kids can learn during physical activity because that response, the way they're moving and thinking, it settles better into the brain. Lots of reasons for that I won't go into, but PE is a good thing to do. And then, of course, we have a parent program in Catch. In all the programs, diet and physical activity, we have something called a parent fun night or a family fun night. So it's sort of like a carnival at school. And we provide information about different booths and so on. I've seen schools go all the way, and they'll invite different people from the community to come in and demonstrate things like cooking classes during this time. But we built 4 or 5 different tooth-related activities so that parents can talk to someone in the booth. We have scripts, and so it's all ready to go for the teachers, so they can hand it off to the PTA and so on to do it. Sometimes we'll have the entire school, their brothers and sisters, and their grandparents come. So the gym is just filled. People seem to like to come to school and do that in a fun and informative way. COVID has put a little damper on all of this, and so I'm truly hoping that we're going to turn a corner by next year, hopefully in the spring. And then finally, we have some videos for parents to reinforce some of the things that we've been talking about here today. So I'm a believer in short videos, maybe 1 to 3 minutes, that have some kind of information that parents would want. And one of the plus sides of COVID is that all the schools know the email addresses of both parents. They also know their cell phone numbers. And so if you have good content, the schools might be willing to send it out for you. That's a new development that I found in schools, that they want to try to do that. And so really it's all about teaching kids these fundamentals in first, second, and third grade. I also failed to mention we sort of tweak it each year, so the program's slightly different. The kindergartner is different than a first grader. There's an awful lot of physical and cognitive growth, and teeth growth too, for that matter. And then the same with third grade. So it's structured on the same basic principles, and then we just change the activities a little bit. So classroom, toothbrushing, flossing, parents, fun. That's what the program is all about.
That's good. You said third grade in there a couple of times, so it's just kindergarten, first and second.
Oh, sorry.
3 grades. That's probably where it's getting wires crossed. But there's 3 grade bands, and I believe it's 5 lessons per grade band. So I think you said 14 or 15 lessons. It's 5 in kindergarten, 5 in first, 5 in second. So just so people know what the ask is in any given school year of a teacher, it's 5 roughly 25-minute lessons. And then, like Dr. Kelder mentioned, I've got here 40 plus standards aligned, by the way, too. These are also lined up to education standards, extension activities, as well as those PE activities. And the parent materials are quite good. We did a lot of nice, it's obviously great information, and they're paired one-to-one with lessons, is what I thought was really cool too, is that there's essentially the lesson that's taught to the kids, and then there's an infographic that goes to the parents that's going to reinforce what they learned in that lesson, which is, I think, a really well-designed 1-2 kind of punch for getting that information to stick, and making sure that the parents are going to be involved in this, oral healthcare routine, because, as we mentioned, they kind of have to be there, a critical linchpin in this actually happening. So it's very deliberate in this program, and it's well done. It's really nice, engaging materials. So you kind of mentioned there a little bit about starting in Houston and things like that. So folks who aren't aware, there was a pilot study of this program, and there is currently an NIH randomized control trial going on. Can you tell us a little bit about what was found in the pilot study? If there are any findings that are worth relaying here? And then tell us a little bit about the randomized control trial that's ongoing right now.
Yeah, so the pilot study we did in 2 schools in Houston. They are KIPP schools, which are charter schools, which are for lower income families, designed for them. So lots of different services and such. And with the pilot study, what we found is that first, I had more lessons than the teachers had time to teach, which is always the case when I design a program. So you caught me on that one, Brooks. About 5 lessons instead of 10. I would like to have 10, but it's really hard to get schools to implement 10, and rightly so. They have a lot of content to cover, which is why I turn a lot of it into PE and the supplemental lessons. But yeah, so what we learned is feasibility. The schools can do it. They can brush their teeth. We learned that they don't want to do it every day, because it turns into a traffic jam in the hallways, and once a week is acceptable. So we practiced going through every single lesson and doing all the components of the program. And then we fine-tuned it and refined it and made changes. And while we were doing that, we submitted the grant to the National Institutes of Health, and we were fortunate enough to win that grant. That grant supplied a 2-year ramp up. And so they gave us 2 years to develop measurement techniques and to further refine the program and upgrade the graphic arts like you're seeing right now with the characters. And now we're at the beginning of starting to recruit schools. We're going to do it in 30 schools. And half of them will be randomized into what's called the Unbeatables program, which is another program that's important. Skin care and cancer prevention with young kids is important too, because sunburn leads to cutting things off of Dr. Kelder's back, because I had sunburns when I was a kid. So anyway. So schools either get randomized into the Catch Healthy Smiles or the Unbeatables program. And so we've recruited schools. I think most of them are going to be in the Houston Independent School District, although we might need one more school district. We're working with public health dentists who routinely go to schools in their mobile vans and help kids which should need treatment that they can't get at home. And so we're partnering with some real solid experts at the City of Houston Public Health Dental Department. And so again, the RCT is designed to just to be more precise about, will this program work or doesn't it work? Because it's hard to do that in a pilot study. You need it with a larger study, and those studies get a little bit expensive, so you can't do them every day. So we're fortunate that we're able to do this and to prove that, I hope we get to prove that the program works. There's a number of agencies that won't invest in school health promotion programs unless there is some form of evaluation. And we're deploying the gold standard type of evaluation here. The program's based on best principles. We've tried it in schools and they seem to like it. The next stage is to get those numbers and find out what exactly happens. And the goal is to count the number of fissures in the teeth and cavities, and we hope this program will show a difference.
Yeah, I think that's a really impactful one that is, you know, I think a big data point that would be really compelling, and I really hope that it's going to be able to be shown. But to actually have dentists checking or hygienists, I'm not exactly sure how it works with the mobile vans, but they're actually counting caries in mouths. I mean, that is just getting straight down to brass tacks. I mean, this isn't, you know, intentions for behaviors or self-report. I mean, there's really looking at a final outcome. So that's coming in a couple of years. I will mention to folks, since we do have a lot of people in Texas, if you are in Houston ISD, if you try to sign up for this program, we might be telling you that you're getting a sun safety program instead. I'll get into in just a second here that, you know, that this program, how it's available to everyone. But there are certain people who, again, to preserve the integrity of that gold standard randomized control study, will be excluded and may not be able to access the program this school year. So just as a heads up, if you get that message, I'm sorry, but you're doing it for the good of science and making sure that we know that these programs work. It's a big part of what you know, it sets Catch apart from other programs too, is that we really care about that science. So I'm glad to have partners like UT who are doing it. So
well, on point to that, Brooks, on top of it is when you get into national distribution of things with school health programs, having this evidence is the gatekeeper for, you know, state level departments of education and departments of health, as well as district education agencies and health departments. And so it's really important to get this information so that then the program will be accepted and then schools will want to implement them. So that it's a gatekeeper function that it just has to be done. So I know some might be disappointed in having to wait a little bit, but that's the way it is with all the programs we make.
Yep. Well, and so speaking of this program, I want to ask, you know, Dr. Crowley, like, because Delta Dental has stepped in to be the sponsor of this program, and what that means is that it's available for free to any school in the U.S. can go in right now and sign up and get the program. I'll put those instructions on the screen in just a second here, but before we go forward to that, Dr. Crowley, tell us why, you know, Delta Dental felt this was something that was worthwhile and that you wanted to be a part of.
So, you know, here at Delta, we have a patient-centric approach to care. And there are anchors to that: safe care, effective care, efficient care, timely care, and equitable care. And when you think about those words, that this program really fits very, very nicely, because as we mentioned before, care isn't just from a dentist. Care is from whomever will affect an improvement in health. And so the effectiveness of this program, by coming to where people are, where these kids are, and helping to educate them, really aligned very, very closely with our philosophy on quality care and the delivery of care. And so, you know, it was a pretty easy discussion and decision to say, you know, for us to improve the health of children and the oral health of the population of the country, starting with the foundational education program like this one aligns with what we want to do significantly.
Well, that's great, and we're so grateful to have you as a partner, because this is again something that is getting the people where they are, getting into the community, and I think it's just a great compliment for, letting everyone in your dental network know that, hey, when the next teacher that comes in for their cleaning, let them know that there's this program they can take back with them, and then it's free because Delta Dental's made that possible. So I'll ask Kate if you can go forward to the next slide. I've asked folks to ask their questions. We're gonna take those now. I'm putting up on screen here just the steps for getting started. I did mention it's free to everyone in the U.S., all schools, the K2 program. Here are the steps for getting started. First, it's just going to catchhealthysmiles.org. There's a 30-minute self-paced teacher training that gets you oriented to the materials. I believe that video is coming soon. The slides are there with the deck, but we are working on a polished training video. And then the last step is obviously just to deliver the program, teach the lessons, and share the parent materials. So we'll leave these on screen here, so don't worry, they're not going anywhere. But I want to jump to audience Q&A. So if you have questions, go ahead and type them in, please. We'll get to as many as we can here with the time we have left. But I will start with, Dr. Crowley, you mentioned that cavities are a communicable disease, and someone asked, what are ways that cavities can be spread person to person?
Well, think about kissing your kids on the lips. That's like probably the easiest way to think about communicating that bacteria. And while it isn't necessarily, kissing, maybe not on the lips, but maybe around the mouth, think about sharing toothbrushes. Think about, any like transmission of, sharing a straw could do it. That kind of person to person interaction with something that's in your mouth can actually seed the bacteria into another mouth.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I have someone just to clarify again. Someone asked if this is available beyond Houston ISD. To be clear, yes, it's nationwide. Everyone can get the program in the country. The randomized controlled trial, that study is taking place in Houston ISD. So Houston schools, you may or may not be able, depending on your campus, you're going to be randomized to potentially get the program or not. So the only people that need to be concerned about access at that level are really kind of the Houston ISD schools and potentially a couple other districts. You would get a note when you sign up if you're in one of those campuses. So you don't have to worry about it. But if you are outside of Texas, there's just no question at all. It's totally ready and raring. You can just hop right in. Let's see. Here's a question from Shakira Lewis. She says, have there been any studies that find a link between child obesity and poor oral health? Maybe around nutrition, I would think. Dr. Kelder? I know that you've.
I'm not up on that literature, so I can't give a real precise answer. Obesity seems to be linked to so many different things that
Sure.
The point that Dan made earlier, if you have pain in your mouth, you might have a tendency towards processed foods. Processed foods might be higher caloric density than those that aren't. Certainly not fruits and vegetables. And so, but I don't know for sure. I'd have to look that up. I don't know if you know, Dan.
Yeah, I haven't looked at that either. I think just kind of like logically thinking if there's some, poor nutrition, whether it's processed foods or too much sugar or, constantly drinking sugary sodas, that sugar component that impacts both obesity as well as oral health, that's the connection point right there.
Yeah, the same root.
Yeah, and I will also, emphasize that since this is a catch program, it actually marries in with our other whole child health programs. It uses, common terminology like the Go Slow Whoa food classification system. They actually talk about tooth-friendly foods within the curriculum. And if you are already a catch campus, if your campus is already, got Go Slow Whoa signage in the cafeteria and things like that, this marries really nicely with Catch Healthy Smiles because you're reinforcing Go foods are generally going to be the foods that are going to be better for your teeth. And again, it's not a perfect, it's not always the exact thing because fruits can have lots of sugars, like you said, milk can have lots of sugar, but there is like a symbiosis. There is, a common thread there in being a catch program and having nutrition lessons that are being taught alongside oral health lessons. There's going to be overlap there, and it's going to just kind of, I think, have an additive or multiplicative effect on that.
Yeah, and let's not undervalue the the impact of water on oral health as well as your overall health.
Yep, absolutely. A technical question here I'll answer. Does every teacher have to individually sign up, or does the school have to sign up? It's actually walk up and register as the teacher. So you walk up, sign up, and as the teacher, you get access right there. You don't have to sign your whole school up. You don't have to, get that kind of investment at that level. You can go up as a teacher, sign up, and get straight into the materials to answer that. Lydia is asking if this program is available to early Head Start and Head Start programs. Not right now, technically, as it is. But Dr. Kelder, do you think some of those kindergarten lessons, is that something that an early childhood center would be able to do, or is it just, I know there's just huge leaps in those early years. So,
the kindergarten lessons could probably go down to age 4 in preschool. And we've also started designing a preschool program for this that would be appropriate for kids about age 3 to 5. And so there's a lot of overlap between the 3 to 5 and in the kindergarten. We're not as far along with the preschool program yet, and but I hope to get that out next year.
Wow. Well, there you go. That's now on the record. So we've got some solid work to do. Thanks. Okay, let's see. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to go through these a little bit here. Someone mentioned that the compelling data, good sound bites on tooth decay among children and getting links to the data. Yes, we do have some of those provided on the Catch Healthy Smiles website, I believe. And if not, I will make sure that I get some more citations linked on there. And if the research y'all have done today, Dr. Crowley and Dr. Kelder, if you would provide that as well, I can put that with the archive of the recording. There was another question about where that archived recording will be. If you go to catch.org and look under news and resources, you'll find our webinar archive. That's where this will be later on this week, along with all of our other archives. Similarly, this will be on the msdcenter.org website in their library of archives as well.
Brooks, just before the webinar started, I emailed you the resource that I use, and it's a new recent report that's in a sort of a journal format. So it covers lots of different oral health topics, not just cavities. So I think it's a great resource, and it'll be in your inbox waiting for you to put it up on the website.
Perfect, already ahead of it. Well, we're just about out of time. So if I could ask Kate to go forward to the last slide here. Hope everyone got the instructions there. It's pretty easy, just go to catchhealthysmiles.org. But for some of these follow-up questions, if you have general program inquiries, you can email the Catch team at healthysmiles@catch.org. If you do have questions about the research project or what's going on in the Houston area, that is the email down here, smiles@uth.tmc.edu. That'll get you in touch with the research team, and they can answer any of your technical questions around that. So with that, I know we're out of time here, so I like to respect people's schedules and want to just say thank you very much to our wonderful guests here. It's been a pleasure talking with you both today. Thanks for being here. Thanks for all of you for attending. We'll send you a link to this archive recording. There's not really presentation slides in this instance, but we'll give them to you, and those other links and resources. So thanks again, y'all. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.